Welcome, everyone. This is Anthony Thomas, Athletic Director Francis Parker, and Nomad President elect. So excited to have you here today for what I hope to be an incredible conversation. Um, each year I want to give a shout out to our friends, our family members from the global community of women in high school sports. Each year, Nomad and the global community of women in high school sports, also known as the Alliance, come together as one community to network, support, and grow together. And today we celebrate Women's History Month by continuing our discussion about dualism. The pressures and expectations of society conflicting with your self identity can evolve into dualism, that duality of self. Dualism is the internal conflict of opposing identities being overwhelmed by the internal struggle to conform your identity to fit community, cultural, or societal standards while compromising your authentic self. In athletics, women find themselves far too often alone in a meeting space with their male counterparts. They are forced to make a decision to fit in or to be their authentic self. I am excited for today and the panelists we have brought together for this discussion. I want to introduce our moderator for today. She is a personal friend, mentor, confidant who spent the last 28 years at Bloomfield High School in Connecticut. Tammy Schondelmeyer led the Warhawks to countless state championships, never allowing her kids or her coaches to dwell on what they didn't have, but what they were capable of achieving. I was fortunate many times to be with her in her element at Bloomfield. And if you could see specifically how her young female athletes would look at her when she wasn't looking, she is truly an inspiration and is one that is loved by so many. So it is my honor today to introduce my friend, Tammy Schondelmeyer. Tammy, how are you today? You're looking beautiful, girl.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate you so much. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the audience. Welcome to the panelists. As Anthony has indicated, and as you can see from the screen, March is Women's History Month, and it commemorates and encourages the study, observance, and celebration of the vital role of women in American history. And in 1987, Congress declared March as National Women's History Month in perpetuity. And a special presidential proclamation is issued every year, which honors the accomplishments and contributions of women in American history. So today, along with dualism, we are going to take some time to recognize some of the prominent women in our profession of high school athletics and to learn from them the many ways they support and advocate for women and girls in their roles as athletic administrators. So without further ado, I would like to allow each of the member of this esteemed panel to introduce themselves, because who can do it better? So we'll start with Jen Brooks. Can you please introduce yourself, Jen Brooks?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Brooks. I'm the athletic director at Ursuline Academy in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been at Ursuline my whole career, which is 29 years, and 27 of them I've been the athletic director. I serve as the mentor coordinator for the state of Missouri. I'm also on the NIAAA mentor committee, and I am the founder of the Global Community of Women in High School Sports.
Yes, you are. And that's a terrific organization. And again, as Anthony indicated, it is a part of the alliance with Nomad. Next up, we have Dana Kuwahara. Dana, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Dana Kuwahara. I am the head of athletics and physical education at Convent and Stewart Hall. We are in San Francisco, California. I've been here for 4 years. Prior to that, I was at Santa Clara University working in their athletic department as an associate athletic director of academic services. Prior to that was at UCLA, and then before that was teaching high school and coaching softball. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Quite the resume. Good job. Thank you. So we also have Bobby Kelsey is supposed to be joining us, but she's, I believe she hasn't gotten on yet. She's a little bit late today. So when she does arrive, we will introduce her and allow her to give her a couple minutes to do that. So I will skip to Alicia De Jesus, a personal friend of mine as well. Alicia, please tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Sammy. Bienvenido. Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning. Excited to be here. Again, my name is Alicia De Jesus. I'm the Director of Athletics, Student Activities, physical education and health for Middletown Public Schools in Middletown, Connecticut. This is my 12th year as a director of athletics, and I've been in education for a total of 17 years. Prior to being an athletic director, I was a PE health teacher and I coached basketball. I am a proud board member of NOMAD, of this great organization. I'm also a committee member of the NIAAA Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. I am on our state organization for Connecticut. I'm a board member as a DEIB liaison, along with being a league rep. I'm also on our leagues, our league that we're in Middletown, the CCC Racial Justice Committee member as well. As you can see, I'm very passionate about equity in athletics, and I work hard to create inclusive spaces for athletic directors and students across the country.
Yes, you have a tireless resume for sure, as do all of you. And we are really happy to have you guys be a part of this panel. You ladies, excuse me, you guys. Slap my face for that, sorry. So, moving forward, I'm going to have a gentleman on our team, Rick Toon. He's done some data collection on the things that are going on with women in this AD profession of ours across the country. So Rick, will you please share your data with us?
Sure. Welcome everybody. My name is Rick Toon. I'm the athletic director at Punahou High School in Honolulu, Hawaii. Good morning, everyone. And I have had the privilege of being an athletic director here for the last 3 years. Before that, I was a dean for 8 years and a counselor for 10. And I also have the esteemed privilege of working alongside 2 other female athletic directors. So there's 3 of us, and it's a great team. So I just wanted to share some of this minority research very, very quickly that I've done over the last year. Tammy, is it possible to share my screen so they can get a visual?
Yes, it is. 1 second. Carlos, it's going to allow you to do that. You're a co-host now. Go ahead.
Thank you. So there are 2 big takeaways from this data that I'll share very, very quickly. The first set of data here goes year by year from 2010 to 2019. The first column on the left here is athletic directors across the country who identify as male. And you can see that number starts in 2010 at around 78%, and in 2019, it's about 76%. Athletic directors who identify as female in 2010 started at 21.65% and 23.9% in 2019, right? So I think the takeaway there is we are inching our way to a better future, but we are a long way from getting equity in our profession, right? If you look at the pay difference, women earn 91 cents for every dollar earned by males. So there's roughly a $7,000 average pay gap between a man and a woman for doing the exact same job. So, right, the numbers don't lie. And I think this speaks to the need, the continuing need for diversity in our profession. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Rick. So I'd like to open that up to the panelists and see if there's anyone on the panel that'd like to comment on some of that data that Rick just shared with us.
Yeah, I'll go. So being a part of the NIAAA DEIB committee, we're doing some work as far as data, and to kind of echo what Rick has shown us, you know, we do have the 2022 data from what was collected earlier this year. So I'm just going to go over really quick as far as, you know, there's 0.04% in our organization in the NIAAA that is African American. And then we have, as far as women and men, we have 13% female and 58% male. And then we do have a 28% that did not disclose. So we're having these discussions in our committee about some of the things we can do and strategize as far as people feeling comfortable to disclose that information. And hopefully, we have a long ways to go, as Rick noted, but hopefully we can get there quicker than what we saw from 2009 to 2020.
And thank you for that, Alicia. And I think that these conversations and these kinds of forums are the kinds of things we need to continue to do to advocate for that growth in this profession for women. So with that, I'm going to start by asking the panel a few questions. Now, I know you all recognize the importance of women coaching girls. If you can see her, you can be her, right? So what do you do to recruit and keep female coaches on your staff? Dana, why don't you start that question for us, please?
Recruiting coaches is probably one of the toughest things we can do in general, but I would say, to see to believe, I would like to go to my network and I try to have conversations there to try to recruit more women into the profession. In terms of keeping our female coaches on board, we're trying to find them opportunities. So we'll have coaches coach throughout various seasons here at our school. We are a K-12 school, so we'll have volleyballs in different seasons, so we can retain coaches throughout the year. But with this question, it was actually pretty interesting to me, because when I think about keeping female coaches, yes, I want to keep the best coaches we can on staff, but also I want to know what our coaches' goals are. What are their personal goals for themselves? Because if I can help support them in their professional journey, that's something that's really important to me. That was something that was really important to me as I grew in this career, having mentors, having female role models that I could go to and to help me progress. And so that's what I want to be able to do for our female coaches here is, sit down with them, ask them, what are your long-term goals? Yes, we can talk about season goals and we can talk about, what we want to accomplish throughout this year, but what are your goals for yourself? I've had some coaches say, like, my goal is to go to coach in the college world. If I can help bridge that, that conversation, that relationship for them, I want to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, it's about empowering each other. So, that's something that's pretty important for me personally to provide to our coaches.
Yeah, and Dana, I think the key takeaway there is that you are pushing these women to continue to coach.
Yeah,
to go on to the next level and not step away from the profession. You're empowering them, you're supporting them, and you're doing things to allow them to advance their careers in this role. And I think that's a fantastic way to do this. Jen, Alicia?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah. So when I'm looking at recruiting female coaches, like let's say I'm specifically looking for a soccer coach, what I'll do is I will go to the websites of the local colleges in the area and go to their soccer teams. I will look for their graduating seniors. I'll get their emails off the website or email the coach and say, hey, I'm looking to hire, if you're interested, let me know, or pass this on to your seniors. So when it comes to recruiting, that's what I do. The other thing, when it comes to retaining my female coaches, I think it's important that I ask them what they need from me. So what can I do to help them do their job? So this past season, I had a young volleyball coach who was a first-time mom. And she said, Jen, I need to bring my baby. I can't leave her. So she coached volleyball with the baby on her, and she said, I need to have my husband come so he can help. Sure. So her husband hung out in the coach's office and fed the baby when they needed. So years ago, I would have been like, oh no, you can't have a baby at practice. That's not okay. We have to adapt, right? So as the AD, what am I doing to adapt my processes, my thought process to accommodate my female coaches?
Wow, that's a great example, Jen. So kudos to you for doing all you could to keep that woman on your staff and allow her to have a family and be a coach, which obviously many women are looking to do. So Alicia, you have anything you want to add? Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to talk a little bit about teacher contracts and kind of what we're restricted in the public schools with, because we have to abide by those contracts. So sometimes it doesn't matter who applies for the position. So when a certain position is not filled, I'm super intentional as far as getting it out to the public, talking to alumni, having, even if we have a staff already, talking to some of our alumni women that are interested and maybe getting them into the volunteer role and getting them kind of established as, you know, starting that process, because here you need your Connecticut certification, first aid CPR, you know, all these certifications, it takes a little bit. So starting them in that process as a volunteer, and then hoping that through that experience and building that relationship with the head coach, they'll grow in that profession, and then they'll ultimately, whether it's with us, kind of like Dana said, whether it's with us here or somewhere else, we are trying to empower them to be in a coaching role and then ultimately possibly in an administrative role. So I think, once you're kind of off the contract as far as a public school, then you can kind of, you need to be intentional, and you need to represent your you need to have representation of your population. Right now, for us specifically, we have 60 out of the 77 teams that we have here in Middletown. We have 60% male coaches versus 40% women. And I'm looking to increase, but I think we've done a lot in the last couple of years to get that number higher, but we can always do better.
Well, can I ask you a question? The 60-40 ratio, is that of girls' sports?
No, this is just our athletic department as a whole.
So 50% of the teams are male teams, and so a lot of those males are part of that. So you actually have really outpaced the real numbers, right, regarding the amount of females coaching your female sports. So kudos to you for that. So good job. Thank you for that. And we are always up against some of these contracts, and maybe some schools more than others have these obstacles, we'll call them
barriers,
and you found some ways to get around those. And I think you're key about what it takes to become a coach and how much money. I mean, they've got to pay to take a class, and they've got to pay to be CPR and CPR and first aid certified, et cetera. Those things are prohibitive. And if these young ladies don't know that they want to do it and stick with the profession, they're not going to pay those hundreds of dollars to become a coach. So you've got a really nice plan in place to allow your kids to get coaches that are female that look like them.
Yeah, and Tammy, you reminded me, right? So we have grants in Connecticut through our state organization and through our league that help new coaches as far as the money, because it's a lot of money, and that helps them start that process, get their certification, take the classes. So that is super helpful in Connecticut for some of our coaches that are, coming out straight out of college that don't have money. So something for other folks to look into within their state organizations, having those conversations, like what can we do to help assist, when money is a barrier.
Right. And in our conference, Alicia and I were both in the same conference, and we established a coaching education committee. And we took our tournament money that we received when we hosted a conference tournament for, let's say, basketball. The funds from that we funneled into coaching education to give those grants to new coaches. So if the coaching course costs $500, coaches got half of that. If they agreed to coach in one of our CCC, our league schools, for at least a season, they got half of that money back as part of this coaching education program that we did in the CCC. So that's something that you guys could take and maybe, utilize within your own leagues and conferences, et cetera, in your state. So good information. Thank you, ladies. That was outstanding. So next question is, can you share some of the things you do to empower female athletes at your school? And I'm gonna start with Jen with this one.
Sure. So I always say that there's power in words, and there's power in our words, and there's power in the invitation. So I am purposeful and intentional about consistently and constantly planting seeds with the young ladies at my school. Hey, one day I think you'd make a great coach. Hey, I want to see you back here after you get your degree. I want you to start coaching softball. So I'm constantly saying these things, putting them that idea in their head that they're they're invited, they're welcomed, and I want them to come back to coach. And some of these kids have never even thought that coaching was a possibility for them. So then, for someone like me to say, hey, I think you'd be a great coach one day, there's power in that. So we have to do that. And I also think it's important that, I'm authentic around them, and that, I empower them, right? And encourage them to, have the confidence. So many of our kids these days lack that confidence, that they think, oh, I really can't do that. I can't be that. So, it goes back to the whole thought, if they can see it, they can be it. So I want to be that authentic model for women, that they come back one day and coach.
Well, my takeaway from that, Jen, is we all probably have someone in our lives who believed in us and saw something in us that we didn't necessarily see in ourselves. And their little word of encouragement or their little push in that direction opened up a whole new thing for what we explored that we wouldn't have if not for that person. So that's fantastic. And I love that you do that. Dana, what do you do to help out some of these female athletes at your school?
Yeah, I love what Jen said. There's power in representation too, and like here at Convent Stewart Hall, I'm really lucky to have a very dynamic administrative team. There's 4 women out of 7 administrators here in our athletic department. And, every week we meet and we talk, and everyone brings their ideas to the table. And I have to give a shout out to 2 of my administrators who have really looked at some of the challenges that they've seen with some of our female athletes. And one of them was the weight room. Girls were being intimidated to go lift weights in the weight room because it was always filled with boys, and the high school team and the middle school teams would be in there, and the girls would be very intimidated. So an idea came up in one of our meetings, and it was presented that maybe we should start a weightlifting club for the girls and just have, representation there. So 2 of our female administrators, Roxanne and Palace, have really taken ownership of that program, developed a really great program for our girls. They meet with them 2 times a week. Anyone's invited to come, but it's an invitation to all of our female athletes to get introduced to strength and conditioning in a very, non-intimidating way, because they have 2 female administrators that are running that. And, that representation piece is really important. They can see that other women are lifting weights, and they can feel that empowerment. It's been a really amazing program. Parents have been so, they've been so thankful for it. The girls have been so excited to be in there. And I think we've been able to see an increase in just getting our female athletes in there and excited about it.
What a great safe space, right? That those girls must feel, and safe to become as strong and to do all the things, to fail, to have your hair a mess and sweat, whatever it is, but not have to worry about, being judged by the boys in that environment. That's fantastic. Good for you guys. Alicia, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that we pride ourselves on here in Middletown is that we want to make sure that all of our programs are as inclusive as possible, where students are feeling safe, they feel comfortable in the spaces that they're in. And with that, 2 years ago, we started to be able to kind of get that data and that feedback with that. We started end of the year surveys, and they could be anonymous, and they're not evaluative for coaches. But we found some of the feedback that we were given, bad feedback, good feedback, bad, all of it is good, no matter what, right? It makes you look within, you see trends, you see themes, you have conversations with your coaches, you have check-ins. And there was a couple things that we found out that we weren't doing, and we weren't being inclusive. So we talked about it. We changed some stuff. It's interesting that Dana talked about strength and conditioning. We just started a strength and conditioning. Like, we finally were able to hire a strength and conditioning coach for all of our programs for the whole entire year, starting this year. But we failed our first season. We didn't do a good job with one of our programs, and they let us know. And now we've had those conversations, and we've changed some things, because we want, and this happened to be one of our female programs, and this is how they felt. So we needed to change some things, and we did that, and we're putting that moving forward for next fall. So it's important to check in. It's important to get data from surveys that you give out to coaches. and making sure that all of your policies and your practices are equitable, right? You don't want to be doing, perception is reality, unfortunately, right? So you need to make sure that whatever you're doing for a voice program, you're doing for as far as equity is concerned. Middle school program, we had an issue earlier this year. A female student reached out to me as a 7th grader. I gave her kudos just for being able to reach out to me, because that's a huge deal. She emailed me and she let me know this is what happened. They were allowed to leave early. We haven't been allowed to leave early. We've had some bus issues, obviously, but she put us in check and we figured it out and we moved forward and we fixed some things. So it's just having students comfortable enough and your coaches comfortable enough to be able to approach you and to let you know, listen, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're observing. And then having that conversation, building those relationships and moving and changing things if you need to moving forward.
Well, she's a future leader.
Exactly.
Sure.
And I told her, I was like, I can't wait till you're a freshman and I can see you every day.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. She could see you.
Right.
And that's huge, Alicia. So what a great story. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Wow,
great answers.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
You talk about like creating this environment where the kids feel that they can talk to you about these concerns. And I think that's huge for administrators, having conversations in the hallway. I work our traffic duty Wednesday morning. So every Wednesday morning I have check-ins with the students that walk down the street that I'm supervising. And it's those little conversations where you're getting pieces of information from them that you can empower them, or you can give them advice, or you can invite them to a conversation just in those small interactions. So, those things, creating that environment and that trust is huge, I think, for the relationships and inspiring.
Absolutely. That's another great example. And it doesn't have to be outside. It could be walking down the hallway, right? You could sit with them at lunch and just check in. What are you guys doing today? What's going on? How do you feel about X, Y, or Z? Yeah, that's really, really good information, ladies. Thank you. So moving on to question 3. Do you have some advice or words of wisdom to share about your own experience with work-life balance in this profession? Please share. Alicia, why don't we start with you this time? Please share.
I don't know if I have advice, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So I've been in this profession for 12, as far as an athletic administrator, for 12 years. I'm still trying to figure the balance part out, honestly. And I know now, though, what I didn't know my first 5 years, I know now and understand how important it is to have that balance between personal life and work. Personally, it helps me, I have a fiance that puts me in check every once in a while. So that definitely does help me, but she also understands my role as an athletic director and supports, the long nights. But if something comes up and it's not on the schedule, I make sure I'm put in check and I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right. I have to go home and have a date with you. I think, some of the things that I've learned from other athletic directors, in listening to, I don't know if folks know Trish Wicken, she's past president of NIAAA 2015. She talked about the schedule send function in Google Docs or in your Google email. So over the weekend, if you're answering emails, you can answer them on your time, but then schedule them to be sent out first thing Monday morning. We all know that if we start that conversation in an email on Saturday, that coach is or that parent is going to respond and then expect that dialogue back and forth. So the schedule send function is something that, again, Trish Wicken had, talked about in a couple other interviews that she did. And I think it's a fantastic function for everyone to use. And then having conversations with your coaches. We just had our preseason spring sports preseason meeting yesterday with our coaches. And I made it a point to talk about the difference between an emergency and maybe waiting until the morning, or if it's over the weekend, Monday morning. If it's we always tell them, listen, we're going to support you 110%. We will be here for you no matter what. But if it's something over the weekend that can wait, please wait until Monday morning to text me, to call me. if it's an emergency where somebody's going to the hospital, something happened then yes, absolutely, I'm going to pick up your phone call. But having that conversation with your coaches and having those relationships, so they really understand what that difference is really important in creating that a little bit of that balance between personal and work life. And then I will, when Dana was talking, she just for the last question, she mentioned, around the school, having conversations. I think we also need to have some type of balance of getting out. We can so easily get stuck behind our computers. And I am not great with this. We have so much to do and so many things to get done. We have to sometimes put it aside and go out into the hallways and have conversations with kids, because sometimes that's the only time we're going to have those interactions, whether it's there or in the evening during a game or an event.
Well, Alicia, I'm extremely happy to hear that you are taking steps to work on your work-life balance, because Alicia and I are great friends, have been for probably a decade, and she lives 10 minutes away from me. And I have not seen her or heard from her for probably 4 months. And I'm not, and I'm retired. I don't have the same AD schedule like we used to have, and I don't see her. So I'm happy to hear you're doing these things, my friend. Good for you. Who else? Jen, what do you have?
I will say that, my kids are 25 and 23, so they're adults now. So life is a lot different from when it was when I was a full-time AD and pregnant and all that kind of stuff. So that it definitely, to those of you who have young kids, it gets easier. I'll tell you that. I live next door to school, so that's good or bad. I can literally see my house from my office. So that's nice. So, and I have late nights, my husband would walk up to school, pick up the kids and take them back. And supportive spouse. So that's been huge for me, massively huge. Similar concept with email. I tell my coaches, email me. My email is my to-do list, right? And the text message or the phone calls, the urgency, like you said, someone's going to the hospital, there's something massive happened. The other thing I have stopped doing, I did this a few years ago, is I no longer get any email notifications on my phone, because otherwise it'd be like ding, 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 ding. And I just could not deal with that. So no more email notifications on my phone. And I don't check my email probably past 8:30 at night, because I don't need that email that's going to make me angry to disrupt my sleep, because I can't sleep good anyway as it is. So I don't need to make it even harder. So those are some things that I do work-wise. The other thing for me that's important is meal prep. So I meal prep out the week in advance. So like I have my little list right here that I wrote down, my schedule for next week. So I'm meal prepping for next week. I wrote down, every day, okay, I got home games this day, got away games this day. I use the crock pot a lot, because those are ready-made dinners. Or I get like really simple things for my husband to make, and he'll make that as well. So yeah, so those are just a few of the things that I do. And I've learned to give myself grace too. And that becomes with like permission to say, you know what, like I'm at school on my spring break, right? So I need to do better. I'm going to go have fun and do fun things after this is over with. But yeah, so to learn I don't have to work 24/7. There's no honor in that. There's no trophy in that. There's no glory in that. So I learned that.
That's fantastic, Jen. Thank you. And for those of you that have the young kids at home, we're going to have Dana talk about what she's doing and her new addition to her family. Go ahead, Dana.
Jen, when you said the whole thing about not having your notifications on, I took my notifications off when I went on maternity leave, and they have not been turned back on since I've come back, and it's been the best thing. Similar situation, the cell phone is for emergencies, the emails at least I can control when I want to open it and look at it. So that is something that I just kind of did during maternity leave, and it's just stuck with me since coming back full time. But yeah, I have a 10-month-old little boy. We also live next door to school, so it is nice to be very close. But with that said, he has become a big part of my afternoon and a frequent face at a lot of our sporting events. So it's funny, I see Elena, you're on here. We have this conversation all the time because she's also an administrator here with young kids. And so I'm always looking to her for advice. So I think, leaning on each other and asking, how is it that you do this? And keeping athletics a place where it is inviting to families. Jen, you talked about being able to accommodate your coaches. And I think that's part of athletics as a whole, is it's a community that just invites people in. And whether that's having a child at a game, I mean, Kai will be with me at the game. Parents now just want to be his babysitter. So they'll just come up and grab him so that I can go deal with some other stuff that's going on. But, at least he's become a part of this life for me. And it's fun to be able to just have him on the sidelines. Sometimes his dad will come and stand there too. And it is helpful to have that. But yeah, I mean, the work-life balance as an athletic director and now being a full-time mom as well. Yeah, it's something that, I'm still figuring out. There are boundaries that I've had to put up just in terms of like when I want to have my time with my child and not have to, worry about events. And I think we do a really good job in our athletic department scheduling out who's going to be administrators in charge of certain games. So that way we know that things are covered. I'm just planning ahead. But yeah, it's still a work in progress for me. And if anyone else has advice for me, I'll take it. But that's what's working for me right now.
Hey,
Well,
Tammy,
I think, yes.
I got one more thing. Go, but if you want to comment, go ahead. But I got one more
I'll
thing.
just comment on Dana quick, and then yes. Dana, I love that it's becoming the norm for you to have your son with you, and you create that, and then it becomes okay for him to be everywhere. And I love that you're doing that. So good for you.
And I will say, prior to me having him, I did have a very hard conversation with myself where I actually really doubted whether I could do this or not, which looking back now, I'm pretty disappointed that I did have those doubts, because I don't think we as women have to put our careers on hold to have families, whether we want families or not, but we don't have to sacrifice. And so I think creating that culture of it's okay, it's normal to have your children at games, it's normal to invite them in. That's the culture that athletics really needs to be. I mean, if we look at the platform of sports as a whole, I mean, we're a diverse, we are inclusive, we have a platform to create change. Like it's a huge, arena for,
That's right.
for everyone. So.
And women can do anything. Exactly. Jen, go ahead.
So, like I said before, my kids are adults now. And so I've had recent conversations with them because I carried guilt for a long time that I was bringing them and dragging them to all of these games. And they didn't enjoy it. They hated it, whatever. Right. And I'll tell you, so my daughter, who is very athletic, she loved it. She's like, Mom, those were the best memories I had. I loved it. In fact, she's one of my coaches right now. And honestly, she's one of my better coaches, I think, because she grew up on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And then there's my son, who is sort of athletics adverse. He just does not have any interest in it. So I really worried about him. What was I doing to him? And we've had some really good, honest conversations. And he's like, Mom, no, it was good to see you in those spaces. And it wasn't always horrible. Even though I didn't like sports, I found ways to keep busy and do things that I enjoyed. So for those of you who have that potential guilt or whatever, know that we're doing good. You're doing the right thing.
And for your son, I'm sure he respected you more, and you were teaching him how to be a strong woman. So he was learning how to be a good man, to a woman who is strong and powerful and, a good leader and all those things, because he saw that in you and you doing the job that you were doing. So I'm sure it was a benefit.
Yeah.
Good for you, Jen. Good for all of you. Great answers. Thank you, ladies. So moving on, my next question is, how can we actively work together to inspire? So what are some of the best practices or examples of what you all are doing to support women? I know we've talked about a lot of things here, but are there any things that jump out that you guys can throw out? Alicia.
One of the things that I've been thinking about, and that is still hasn't come to fruition here, but the mentorship model. And that's, research says that there's one caring adult is key to skill building, building resilience, more likely not to bully, not to have depression, be able to complete tasks they start. So how can we create more spaces where kids can, they can let us know who that one caring, or they know who that one caring adult is. And if that's a coach, usually it's coaches, right? Let's be real. Usually, you know, if you were to poll our students here in Middletown, I could probably say maybe 50% of that one caring, a student athlete would say that one of their coaches is their one caring adult. But how do we create more of those spaces for our kids? And can we? Whether it's, you know, we're trying to build we still haven't done it yet, but we're in the process of building a SALT group, so a student athlete leadership group. And that obviously is going to be both male, female, but where we can have conversations, whether it's difficult, it could be it's going to be difficult conversations, right? We're just not going to go and see, you know, what's the easy stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the data. We're going to talk about race issues. We're going to talk about policy. Like, we're going to talk about all that because athletics has something in all of that, right? So, you know, creating some of those models for students to be successful, to be motivated, I think is something that we can talk about. And, you know, and in those you're building relationships with, which I think is very key in our positions as, you know, coaches, administrators, athletic directors. So, and I think ultimately, you know, as I continue to learn and professionally grow, along with those mentorship groups, you got to have a good support system, right? We have to continuously provide opportunities, right? We have a system here where any teacher can start any club at any time. It goes through a process, it gets approved, right? And that should happen. You know, if there is a space where a kid feels comfortable, then let's provide that club, let's approve it, and let's move forward. So I think having those support groups and looking and leaning on people, as Dana said before, is really, really important in our profession and in a coaching profession.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. Jen, did I see you were ready to say a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
So I think it's important that we, and I am a walking billboard for women in sports, for what it looks like to be a athletic director, a coach, whatever, right? So if I'm walking around going, this job sucks, or I'm so busy and I don't have time to do anything and everybody's miserable and everybody's horrible, like, who wants to do that, right? So
Right.
I have to be aware of how I'm presenting myself in my job, you know. So it's the kids kind of laugh around here, but every time, you know, I see someone, they're like, you know, how's it going? Well, you know, I said, I'm living the dream. You know, what do you, how's life? Living the dream, you know, and I believe that I'm living the dream, and they need to know that and hear that, right? So I have to be very cognizant of, it's important to be authentic, but it's also important to show the good and the enthusiasm and all that kind of good stuff. So remember, we're a walking billboard, and so we have to be cognizant of what we're showcasing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Nobody likes Debbie Downer. No. What about you, Dana? Do you want to throw some thoughts at this?
Yeah, I mean, being involved in groups like this is super inspiring to me, just being amongst other women in sports and even our male counterparts that really do inspire us and lift us up too. So, I mean, I'm appreciative of that. I think also it's, you know, creating those opportunities for women. I think it's very common to see, you know, male coaches coaching a girls' team. And I think here, you know, we're trying to create more visibility about women coaching male teams. And we're seeing that, you know, we're seeing women coaching in professional worlds now. And if we can build on that and make it, you know, more common in the middle school, the high school, the collegiate level, that's also creating the opportunity for women to inspire not just young women, but also men as well. And also being able to see that it's normal. Women are capable of coaching male teams. We have women here that are coaching some of our boy teams. And I think that that's incredible. And it's showing our boys sports that they don't have to be coached by a man to have a championship program.
That's fantastic. And those kinds of things are happening across the country and in professional sports and in officiating, where women are taking on roles of coaching and administration in these professional sports arenas that are really showing us that they can do it, A, because they're being successful, and then B, that it's the norm, that it can be the norm. And stop looking at it as, oh, the first female to ever do blah, blah, blah. When we can stop saying that, then we've arrived, right? So that's fantastic. I think I want to give the members of the audience a chance to ask a question or two of the panelists. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask that has stood out today or want clarification for. Kevin is, can you read? Let me see. I don't need to see. Kevin is saying something. Can Dana or Alicia address also being a woman of color or ethnic minority in addition to being a woman in your profession? Which one of you would like to jump on that? Alicia, go ahead.
I'll try. So yeah, so I am from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I am fluent in Spanish. And you know, in my role here in Middletown, I'm, you know, the first woman, the first Latina woman, the first gay Latina woman. So a lot of, you know, I check all them boxes, right? I think it's difficult. It's not easy. I'm gonna be straight up real, transparent with everyone on the call. It's not easy because of the way I celebrate. I always get something. It's because I'm loud. I'm always getting something thrown back at me. I'm always professional. I'm always respectful, but this is my culture. Like, this is who I am, right? And one of the things that I've taken, you know, I have tried in my position, even though, you know, it's been difficult, I have tried to never compromise my vision, our vision for our department, and those that make it, and what makes it up. And that has a lot to do with who I am as a person. And, you know, and I try to maintain focus on those small things, because ultimately you need to make, for us, we want to maintain focus on the small things to be able to create a culture where everything matters. And that's kind of who I am inside to a core. And I don't let the outside of how people view me or what they think about me really affect the decisions that we have to make, because I'm always going to make decisions. We are always going to make decisions and what is best for the students in our districts, for all students.
And when you do that, you're never wrong, Alicia. You're never wrong. So that's fantastic. Good for you. That you don't let that outside noise affect anything that's going on with you and how you run your department. That's fantastic. Good job. Dana?
Yeah, so I think I spoke about this on the first time we had this discussion a couple of years ago, but in second grade, I remember a boy telling me, like, oh, you're Asian, you're a Japanese girl, you shouldn't be good at sports, you should be good at math. And honestly, like, that has stuck with me for, I mean, I'm 40, so it stuck with me for years. And you know, when I think about this role and who I am, like, this is who I authentically am. Like, sports has been a part of my bones. It's been a part of, you know, my passion and my love. And if I can be that representation for other, you know, Japanese, Asian American women who there's not a lot of us in this profession. If I can be that representation for them and to show them that we can do it, we don't have to live into some of these stereotypes that, you know, are put upon us, then, you know, I'd love to be that for somebody. But, you know, being a minority, being a female, it's not really about just proving everyone wrong. It's about just being true to who I am and what I want to do and what I want to provide for our students and for our future. So I really try to hold on to that piece as I do the things I do. And even when I feel like, oh, you know, I feel a little bit out of place here, it's like, no, this is, you know, I really want to lean into that, you know, authenticity of why I'm here and my values, and just do the best I can for the purpose and for the drive that I have for this profession.
Well, Dana, I think for all of us, it's really sad when some of that negative stuff that we hear, we've all heard it, it stays with us, right? You said you're 40 and it happened when you were in second grade. So, you know, for 30 plus years, you've been holding on to that negativity. But I will throw out that it has made you, you know, who you are, right? You hang on to it, and those kinds of negative things drive you to become, you know, the best version of yourself. And if not for those things, if everything was lilies and roses, then you wouldn't be as good as you are. And so thank that kid for whatever he said to you that made you become the person you are, because it's outstanding. So thanks for sharing that story. So I do have another question from the audience, and we're kind of coming up on an hour. I was thinking we'd go about an hour and 15 minutes if everything was okay. If you have to go, I understand, but we'd like to kind of hold on for a couple more minutes to answer one or two more of these questions. But one of them is, what's your advice for male ADs? Like, the male ADs are asking us women for advice. And what is something that you have seen male ADs do that you feel was supportive of females or girls in sports or anything like that? So anyone have something? Alicia, you clicked off first. Go ahead.
You know, I think since I've been in Middletown and I've been able to take part in the national conferences, you know, my good friend Anthony Thomas, my good friend Carlos Reed, my good friend Kevin G. Adams. I mean, these are men that have done nothing but treat us the same.
Yeah.
And I've always felt it, and I always felt amongst them that I've belonged, right? They ask me questions, how I feel about things. They ask me, you know, what have you done in this situation? How can you help me when I'm dealing with this? They don't always have the answers, but we have a conversation and we learn from each other. You know, when we go into a room when we are the only woman in the room, it's automatically intimidating. Automatically. We are powerful, we're independent, but it's intimidating. So when we go into that room, we want men to have the space should be inclusive. It should feel safe. We should have opportunities to speak without being spoken down to. We should have our voices heard. And what I've explained is everything that Anthony, Carlos, Kevin, Rob's on here. A lot of the men that I've had the opportunity to meet in being in this profession has helped me grow because of that. So for those that are asking, I mean, that's just a little part of my story. But Jen, I mean, I'm sure you have some stuff that you can add to that.
Yeah. Well, if I could
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tammy.
I'm sorry too. But I just want to comment on what Alicia said before you jump in there, Jen. But you know, to have the allies of the men that we're talking about that are part of Nomad, I think the vision that they even created this organization and felt that they understood that, you know, women are minorities too, and they can relate to that. And to be our allies, they have done nothing but empower us. Rick, you're on here too. I mean, certainly that is extremely important to women and the comfort we feel walking into these rooms. And so Jen, I'll throw that to you because I'm sure you have something to add to that part.
Yeah, you know, it took me a while to find the courage, to find my bravery, to say to the guys in the room when I was the only woman in the room to say, this is not right, you know, or, hey, I'm talking, listen to me, right? So once I found that bravery, that courage, a lot of things opened up for me, right? And then a lot of those men in the room asked those questions, what do you need from me? How can I help you? And I would start by saying, well, you know that happy hour that you had last night? I didn't get the invitation. You texted everybody else but me. So let's start there, right? So now they're always very much, hey, Jen, we're having a happy hour tonight. I'm like, okay. And even sometimes I don't want to go to happy hour because I just want to go back to my room and read a book or do something. I know that it's important to get out of my comfort zone and go have a beer or so with them, right? Because they need to see Jen in, you know, just out of the AD space, right? A couple other things that we've done is I've got a couple of close allies in my state association that will sit around these meetings where literally I'm the only one in the room, woman in the room. And he'll text me, hey, Jen, I'm going to volunteer you for this. Are you okay with that? And I'll text back, sure. The next thing you know, okay, Jen, I think you should do this. Are you in for that? So, you know, he's opening those doors for me. We need men to stop being the gatekeepers and open the doors for us. And so when our male allies are opening doors for us, that's huge. That is super huge.
I agree. Yeah. Dana, if you don't have more to add, I do have another question I'll throw out. Do you have something you want to add? Not necessarily.
I think,
Okay,
Tammy, I think Anthony has his hand raised. I don't know if you want
do you want to ask the question, or is this the question that's written down here? Anthony, you can ask it. Go ahead.
I want to ask it because I want to ask you, and thank you for the kind words. You guys know you're my sisters. I love you, and you know I'm always going to go out on that limb with you all. So that's never going to be questioned. But you know, there are times, Tammy, and I know you've experienced this personally, and I've been in your corner in some of these situations of, you know, have you ever been worried that you might lose your job for speaking up, or for pushing the limits, or just standing up for yourself when when you've done nothing wrong? You know, how have you handled that situation?
Well, Anthony, thank you for that question. And you're right. You know, I've certainly had some male gatekeepers, oppressors, deflators, chauvinists in my world. And I'll just tell you, the first, 3 years that I was an athletic director, I wrote my letter of resignation 3 times. And I did not turn it in because I felt like this profession was my calling. And I understood that I was there to change the narrative for all those kids, girls, women, but also the males who were under my supervision. And if I had quit, where would Bloomfield be? As I feel that I have helped it grow and become what it has become. But it does get heavy, and it does get hard. And I always knew, like Alicia was saying, that every day I could look myself in the mirror because I knew what I was doing was for the kids, with kids in mind. And I always made the right decisions and I put them first. And so no one could ever question what I was doing. And I stood strong on that. And, my shoulders got heavy and it was difficult at times. But 21 years later, I feel like I persevered. And those people that were trying to come for me because they had the position before me and I was outshining them or something along those lines, those people, there was no argument. They couldn't say anything that stood up, to any kind of test because it was all speaking for itself, and it was a hard road, and I do appreciate the question, but I know who I am and I knew what I stood for, and I knew every day I looked in the mirror, I sometimes the decision was between a bad decision and a worse one, and I chose the bad decision because it wasn't worse, and that's what we're all up against all the time. But in the end, those deflators, those oppressors, those people did not beat me, and they did not push me out, and they could not win. And for me, that's what drives me and makes me feel good about the career I just left after 21 years. I look back at it and I made sure I left when it was at the top and when I felt good about every single thing that was happening, and not when, they threw their darts at me and, run because I'm getting some darts. No, I avoided the darts, or I shot them down and then moved forward. And that's when I left and walked away. So I appreciate that question. And I'm sure lots of us have that kind of story of at least one person in your world that is an oppressor, a chauvinist, a deflator, somebody who doesn't have anything good to say about you or for you, and isn't in support, and don't let them win. That's the only thing I can say is don't ever let them win. You have all these people around you that can support you in place of them, create your A team and use them to help you get forward. Hopefully that answers that question.
No one's done it better, Tammy.
Well, thank you, Anthony.
and to add to that, right, we get questioned. When I say we, us women, we get questioned all the time about everything that we do, about the decisions that are made all the time. Whereas our counterparts, our male counterparts, doesn't always happen. So we have that, at least I do, a defensive mechanism, like, and then we have to overly prepare to then shut them down with like, nah, this is, but why? Why do we have to do that? So the men on this, this webinar, and those that will be listening later, like, think about that and advocate and support us when we do get questions. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Thank you. Jen or Dana, any of you want to throw anything else out there? You want me to move on to the next question? It's up to you. Okay. Well, I do want to take a minute and highlight that both Jen and Alicia are going to be getting the NFHS State Awards of Merit this year at their state conferences. So congratulations to both of them. That's outstanding. Good for you. Keep doing all that great stuff that people are recognizing in you. That's awesome. Yes, you're welcome. And I do want to give each of you a chance to kind of highlight some of the special things that you are doing in your roles. So Dana, can you talk about the things that you're doing to support women in the state of California? I know you got some plans. Can't unmute yourself? You lost the little icon? All right.
Sorry, my mouse stopped working and I was like, how do I figure out how to unmute? Well, what are we doing here? I mean, I feel like I could be doing a lot more, and I would like to do a lot more, but I mean, I think that's just the world of athletics and how we feel every day. But in terms of, what am I doing? I've been involved in some mentorship programs. I was heavily involved when I was at the NCAA level, but just the outreach with people with women that are interested in becoming athletic directors or getting their foot in the door, helping those conversations, giving them advice on how to make moves to get where they want to get to. I also think just being a part of this Nomad group has been really just so amazing. I mean, the relationships that I have here with the women on this call, I feel like, Tammy, I could call, I have called you, I text you all the time,
Yes, you can.
Just being in California, we've been able to reach out to everyone in different states. So, I mean, that's basically where I'm coming from right now.
I love it. No, that's good stuff. Absolutely. Alicia, I know that you are doing some things at your state conference next week. You want to talk about what you're doing?
Sure. So as I said earlier, I'm on the board of our state organization as a DEIB rep, and I have the opportunity, right? I have the opportunity to present. And what we're presenting on is what we see. We've seen this kind of around with the female that's crossed off, and it says the female athlete when the female's crossed off. Jen, I know you know very much, the sweatshirt, I believe you have it, I have it. But I have titled the presentation, The Female Athletic Director, with female being crossed off. And it is a roundtable-ish presentation. And we've never had one in Connecticut. We've never had one. And in working with Trish Wicken, who presented at the national conference for her female roundtable, we talked a little bit, and I was like, we need to do this for our state, and we need to provide a network and some conversation and discussion and see really who are the women in our state that are athletic directors, so that we can create a WhatsApp text group, and we can get together and talk and have conversations and be real and not have to hold back. And so it's super, it was super important for me to be able to have the opportunity to do that presentation. And I think, one of the things that I've said a lot during this webinar is having an opportunity. And I think one of the things that I have become more confident in my role as athletic director is because of the opportunities that I have gotten. And I've gotten the opportunities because of Anthony Thomas and the co-founders, Carlos, Kevin, Tony of Nomad, being on the board and being able to be in a leadership role, having the opportunity to be at the NAAA DEIB committee, having that role, representing Section 1. One of two of us are representing Section 1, being able to represent our league in our state organization. These are opportunities that were given to me, that were asked of me. Somebody reached out to me, another woman reached out to me that wanted me as a league rep. So thinking back, now I need to give back. I need to do the same for people that are coming into the profession, for women that are coming into the profession. So I am very passionate about doing that. Now that I'm 12 years in, I feel confident enough, and I feel as though I have a good enough experience to be able to do that now. And I'm really, really excited about it. And having these opportunities to be able to speak is really something that I look forward to because of that.
That's outstanding stuff, Alicia. And you've earned it. You've earned the right to be asked. So good for you. Kudos. Jen, no, Rick, I did see your question, and I do want to give you a minute, so I will, but I'd like Jen to speak about the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, your organization that you founded, and what's going on with that, and why people should become a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. So, my journey to just, so far was very lonely and was very hard for so many years. And I can't tell you the specific moment or event that I said enough's enough, but I got to the point where I said enough's enough. If I can't, I'm going to have to organically create this network for women if I want to have more women in my life as a female athletic director. So I created the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. We are for women. We support women, networking, mentoring, so that when you go to local, state, and national conferences, you actually have a network now. You know someone, you can connect with someone. We also invite men to be a part of it because we do need our male allies. We also need them to know what it's like to be a woman in sports. So those are important. So I absolutely encourage you to check us out, Global Community Women High School Sports. We have a website. Dina and Tammy are on the call. They're on my executive council. And so it's just a space for us women not to feel so lonely. And it's also I'm purposeful in making sure that the journey for the next person that sits in this chair will be a lot easier than it ever was for me.
Yeah. And it's an outstanding organization. We have monthly calls, and there's always great guest speakers. Jen does a really good job of finding people, and they're always inspiring. And so I really encourage all of you to become a member if you're not already. Rick Toon, who was the one that sent us the data about women in the current state of women in this country, has some information he'd like to share about a program he does at Punahou. So go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, hi, everybody. And I think this is the resounding takeaway that I continue to get whenever I'm on a call with these group of individuals, right? As mentioned, the males in this room are just great role models for me in how they, provide opportunities for everybody, really, right? And the women on this, oh my gosh, right? Rock star women on this call. So I hope you feel like they're supporting and they're a group for you to ask for help and resources from. I just wanted to really quickly share something that I think is also equally important. It is important that we build capacity in our young men, right? So we've talked a lot about, right, how to, if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? We also need to work with our young men very, very early on, right, to acknowledge the importance of equality, diversity of women everywhere, right? And how they need to be protectors of that space as well. So one of the programs we actually do with Punahou is called What Maketh a Man. And we do this for grades 9 through 12. We have a model where we draw on Hawaiian principles of when you know, you go from boyhood to manhood. So there's the aspect of that we talked about of ku and hina. So ku is kind of like your male traits, and hina are your female traits, and that those are nurturing, right? Love. And a lot of times our young boys really try to push away, and our society really devalues traits that are associated with hina, right? The vulnerability, the empathy, the nurturing. And we try to we only with our young boys reinforce these really hard, right? You got to be tough, you got to be strong, you got to, right? And we need to nurture all of those traits in our young men to make sure that all of those traits are accepted. So when they see women in the workplace, they don't automatically identify them in a certain category that is less than, right? And that's a really critical thing that we should be doing with our young boys, to have them really frame it as equally important, right? All the toolbox that they need to have is they need to have this very diverse toolbox, right? We tell them all the time, you can't bring the hammer to every situation, right? You got to bring the white glove sometime. You got to know when to do that, because if you try to bring the hammer, right, like with your 2-year-old daughter, probably not gonna work. Even your 2-year-old son, not gonna work, right? You got to know, and you got to build those skills and capacities, right? So if anybody wants to know more about that, I'm happy to share that curriculum. And yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody on this call for continuing to push the needle in the right direction. Thank you.
Wow, Rick, that's powerful stuff. And you know, kudos to you again, another ally, another impressive male member of this community. And you know, keep that up, because what you're doing sets the stage for like the future of those boys for sure. So thank you for sharing that. Well, I know we've gone a little over, and I just want to say thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I want to thank my panelists. Please help me thank our panelists for this terrific webinar today. And hopefully you all are as inspired by them as I am. And again, this organization continues to do some amazing things. And I share it with your friends, share it with other people, let people know to become a member of both Nomad and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. These are two very good organizations that are really doing some great things. So thank you for allowing me to be your moderator for this. And Anthony, any other closing words?
I do. Thank you so much, Tammy, and panelists, all of you, all of my good friends out here. It's great to see so many people on here, some of my colleagues here in San Diego as well. We certainly have, more work to do, but it's great to be able to do it in this type of environment where we're all supporting one another. So continue to look out for notifications from us about different things that we're doing. We're going to continue to work with Global Community of Women on all variety of issues. Nomad, I can say very strongly, is 100% behind Global Community of Women. Beside, we're just here together to highlight and to challenge and to look for opportunities to not replace, but give real opportunities to others that have not had the opportunity to take on these incredible roles and do the things that we need to do. So thanks again for being here. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you soon. Take care, guys.
Thanks for everything, Anthony.
Yeah,
Elena,
always.
Hello.
I miss you.
I miss you. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.